You know the saying, sometimes you wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Well, I think today is one of those days because we just got the news. It was about an hour ago, so I'm making this about an hour after this happened, or it was just announced, that Hulk Hogan, the real American, the Hulkster himself, is dead. Yes, folks, you read it right, folks. Hulk Hogan's dead, and I think just in general, we've all woken up on the wrong side of the bed. So, it's funny. Like earlier this week, 2 days ago, in fact, we had Ozzy Osbourne die. Another guy that was just iconic in his own industry. Made a video about him on my other channel. I don't know if I should mention my other channel there, or even if I have another one. Yeah, guys, I have another channel, but that's not the important issue of today's video. The important issue of today's video is that the greatest wrestler, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, has passed away. And maybe throw Ozzy in there too. Because Ozzy, he was a metal musician, but for his appearances in WWE and the just memorable segments that he was a part of, Ozzy, you'll get a mention in this video too. So, the main subject of this video is Hulk Hogan has passed away. And yeah, this one, it really hit me like a ton of bricks because, he, just like Ozzy, this is somebody that arguably just redefined, like, how we think of something. Like, Ozzy redefined how we think of music, right? Ozzy was one of the godfathers. He was the godfather of heavy metal. He basically created the whole genre. And with Hulk Hogan, too, he created this entire industry that we call professional wrestling, sports entertainment. He created all of this. And, it was Vince McMahon that he was the one that created WWF, but it's like, who was the one out there? Who was the mascot of this all? It was Hulk Hogan. And that's what this video was about. So let's run down Hulk Hogan's life here so let's briefly run down Hulk Hogan's life here. He was born August 11th, 1970, not 1970, no. My bad. He was born August 11th, 1953. The reason why I say that date is because that was the same date that Joe Rogan was born on, funny enough. So, you got two legends just born on that day, right? He was born in Tampa, Florida. He, had a very stereotypical life. Didn't really have any, crazy stuff happen. However, it's funny I'm talking about music. So, he originally, when he was in high school, his passion wasn't actually wrestling. It was, he wanted to be a rock and roll musician. So, someone similar to Ozzy Osbourne, right? And that didn't work out, or whatever. That didn't really work out. And then he decided in 1977, you know what? I'm going to try out this professional wrestling thing. He goes to one of the top professional wrestling schools in the world. I'll name it here. I'm not going to try and pronounce it right. It's some Japanese shit, right? You know what I mean? I'm not that good with Japanese stuff, right? Definitely not New Japan. That's my that shit's like my kryptonite. It's like I couldn't say any of those guys' names in New Japan, right? But it's tough for him, like the training was back then. It was tough, They basically just wanted to break you, you know what I mean? And he held through, even though he broke his leg in the training. And then he started wrestling around the Midwest region. He wrestled a lot in Minnesota before catching the eye of Vince McMahon Sr., so Vince McMahon's dad, right? He gets promoted, he gets sent over. Now he's wrestling in the Northeast Territory. So this is another thing too, because we're talking about territories now. This is in the time of wrestling where there are territories, right? It's not just one giant company that, rules them all, WWE, right? So Hulk Hogan goes to Vince McMahon Sr.'s territory, Worldwide Wrestling Federation. That was what it was called back then. It basically was the territory of the Northeast, and I'm very familiar with that region because that's where I'm from, and I still live, right? So Hulk Hogan comes to somewhere around me, right? And then 1984, Vince McMahon Sr. dies, and then Vince McMahon Jr. takes over. And then what happens from then? Vince McMahon looked at Hulk Hogan and was like, this is going to be my mascot. This is going to be the shining star of my company. This is going to be my number one guy right here. And who was that number one guy? Who did he pick it to be? Hulk Hogan. He didn't pick it to be, Nathan Frazier, right? Oh yeah, real men existed back then. I forgot, you know what I mean? So, anyways, back to the video, right? So, he basically, no, that's another thing too. So, in 1984, he won the WWF title from the Iron Sheik and proceeded to hold the title for 4 years. Almost as impressive as Roman Reigns' reign. Oh, I'm just kidding, guys. Come on. Obviously, Hulk Hogan's reign was just more impressive. He had to fight off Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3 to another notable moment. Just, when you're thinking of, like, the greatest wrestling moments in history, it's like Hulk Hogan was in almost all of them. You know what I mean? So, then he gets into a memorable tag team with Macho Man, the Macho Man, Randy Savage, right? That guy. If his death had happened now, it would have hit just as hard as Hulk Hogan's. You just best believe it would have. So they win the tag team champions, then they break up the tag team, get into a memorable angle. Then he starts feuding with the Ultimate Warrior, another guy just really memorable. Just memorable. This is just what wrestling was, and this is what wrestling should be. These guys just were the cornerstones of it. They were just so entertaining. Just everything about them. They were this stuff was just so awesome back then. Even though I wasn't alive for it, just looking back at it now, it's like I could tell like this was special, So then 1991, he gets into a feud for WrestleMania 7 with Sergeant Slaughter, who turns heel and is not like the proud, loving American anymore. Sergeant Slaughter now loves a rock, right? So, at the time, this was controversial because, the U.S. had gone into a war with, they had gone into the Persian Gulf War, right? So they were going to war against Iraq because they were trying to invade Kuwait, right? For that oil, of course, right? So having a character that supported Iraq at the time was really controversial, and it's really something that you don't see in the industry nowadays, So Hulk Hogan wins the title from him at WrestleMania 7, and then he wins it one more time in WWF at WrestleMania 9. The match was Yokozuna versus Bret Hart, somebody that, really loves Hulk Hogan, right? Yes, surely, absolutely he does. So Hulk Hogan wins the title again at WrestleMania 9. You could argue, oh, well, he buried Bret Hart. I don't care. If, because here's the thing, right? It's like, I'm not going to talk about the hate right now because his career is more important than the haters, right? 1994, Hulk Hogan's time, the big superstar and, the big local baby faces of the 80s, that time's winding down. We're moving to a different era now. Hulk Hogan sees that and then decides to jump ship to WCW. He doesn't really, become memorable in WCW for a little bit. He's still the, Hulkster, Hulkamania. Still comes out in the red, white, and yellow, right? And then in 1996, so there is a tag team match. It's it's like Macho Man. Gosh, my memory's hazy here. But it was basically a tag team match. And it was like the Outsiders, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, it was like a 3-on-2 tag team match. It's like, so the stipulation was, who is going to join the Outsiders to make this even? Or are they even going to get another partner, right? So Hulk Hogan comes out. Everybody thinks that, he's going to join the good guys. He comes out, because he's coming out in the red and yellow, right? So he's coming out in the red and yellow. And then what does he do? He gives a leg drop to Macho Man Randy Savage and officially turns heel in the greatest heel turn segment of all time. There is nothing, the John Cena one, people are, oh, no, that was great. No. Just, when you think about it at the time, it's like Hulk Hogan was the biggest babyface, biggest character, biggest person in wrestling, right? And then he decides to turn heel. I couldn't even imagine what it would have felt like because I wasn't alive for it, I couldn't imagine the heat that he got, and he got that heat was just so intense. And then from that point, he forms NWO, which goes on to become the most memorable faction, team, whatever you call it, in wrestling history. Without a doubt, people are still doing the too sweet, right? People still do that thing to this day. And I highly doubt they would be doing that had NWO not done it, right? So, another thing I wanted to mention here, too, is that Hulk Hogan he had the longest World Heavyweight Championship reign, the one in WCW, that is. He held it for 494 days. Just crazy reign. Almost as crazy as CM Punk's reign. Oh, yeah, just kidding. It was more impressive than CM Punk's reign, right? He held it for longer. That's why I say that, right? That's what I always say about that. Because it's like, Hogan's still a star. And then, WCW winds down. And then in 2002, Hulk Hogan comes back to WWF, which then is soonly renamed to WWE. Has another pretty memorable run. He faces The Rock at WrestleMania 18. And yes, this is one match that I have seen. And I gotta say, it's one of the best matches ever. Just the crowd's reactions and all that stuff. It's just pure magic. And then the next year it's kind of like a it's kind of like an El Grande Americano gimmick. He becomes Mr. America, and the whole thing is that it's basically Hulk Hogan under a mask, but he doesn't say he's Hulk Hogan, even though everybody can tell that it is, because he does the same hand motions, the to the ear, and the ear thing he does. I forgot what the name of it was, but he does all the same stuff that Hulk Hogan does, but he doesn't say he's Hulk Hogan, and he has the handlebar mustache, of course. So there's that run. Then he leaves WWE. His last match in WWE was at SummerSlam 2006 versus Randy Orton. He won that one. Now, whether he should have put over Randy Orton or not, that's not something that I'm going to talk about in this video here. But then he goes to TNA around 2011. They try to do like a nostalgia of the Monday Night Wars. They had Eric Bischoff there too. It didn't really work out there. And now we're to today, where he has Real American Beer, or where he did until he passed away now. So now it's time to reflect on the legend that is Hulk Hogan. So with most people that we make videos on, it's like, I can't say like, I know them personally or whatever, but this is somebody that I've met in real life. And whether I should show the pictures or not, because I have them, I don't know if I should. It's kind of a private thing, right? But I remember waiting 2-3 hours in the hot sun last year, in a time where it was kind of controversial to like Hulk Hogan, because he was at the RNC, right? He had that speech, which politics aside, that was one of the best speeches ever. That part was awesome, where he's like, "When I took a shot at my hero." that speech, that was just such a good moment, And then all the controversies because the thing is too, Hulk Hogan has been one of the most polarizing figures in the wrestling industry and community, right? And I would say for most of it, or pretty much all of it, it's all ridiculous. I mean, say what you want, but and this video isn't about those, but I just think in general, you shouldn't really be given too much leeway to a guy who lies or whatever. It's look, I'm not somebody, lying's one of those things. It's nah, it's a big no-no, right? But it's a person on a podcast. So it's do you know how, it's when you get into, because I can imagine when you get into those big spaces, it's how many times people lie or exaggerate things, right? It's almost everybody probably does that stuff. And then the racism thing, it's clearly the racism thing, because clearly he only said that because he was mad or whatever. It's he would never say, it's like, I highly doubt he would ever say the N-word if he was thinking with his head, he had, kept it, like, he had his mind straight, right? He would never do that. I can almost guarantee you. You want to know why? Because he was in the ring with Dennis Rodman. Yeah. Yeah, so much for hating black people, right? And Booker T and all these other stars that were black wrestlers, right? It didn't really matter to him, And, I think at the end of the day, he truly wasn't a racist, and anybody that, says he is really just hasn't really looked into things or just doesn't understand that, like, he's worked with Dennis Rodman, Booker T, there's so many others, that are just black, right? And that's not what this video is about, but just in general, I'm seeing a lot now that, like, I think people, like, the people that like him really understand that, like, this guy was something really special. And another thing, too, so I have a poster that I'm looking at here, and Hulk Hogan has the most space out of anybody on there. And there's some legends on there, too, right? We got Ultimate Warrior, Andre the Giant, Ric Flair, right? Yeah, 16-time world champion, right? But Hulk Hogan has the most space out of anybody in there. And I think that's very fitting. And nothing wrong with all the other guys. All these other guys on there are legends. But it's just, for what he did for the industry of wrestling. I mean, I'm just thinking about this too, because this feels so similar to the Aussie video, where it's like, could you imagine what wrestling would have been like, or what this would have been like if this person wasn't there? Ric Flair probably would have been, like, seen as the best wrestler ever, but Ric Flair, I don't know, like Ric Flair, he had to, like, there are other wrestlers, there are wrestlers that have better moves than Hulk Hogan. There are people that are more famous than Hulk Hogan. Like, right, The Rock had more, like, Hollywood fame than the Hulk Hogan did. The Undertaker lasted longer than Hulk Hogan did in WWE. But if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan's first run in WWF in the 80s, if it wasn't him, I'd argue this industry wouldn't have been as big as it was. Even just for me, because I remember the first time I saw Hulk Hogan was in Rocky 3. Now, I wasn't like somebody that's like 50 or 60 years old and was like, I saw him in Rocky 3 back in the day when I was 16 years old. Like, I'm not one of those guys. I'm literally somebody that's only 20 years old, right? And even I know that this is somebody that is really important to wrestling as a whole, right? So, first time I saw him, now I saw Rocky 3 when I was around like 8 or 9 years old. So, this is at least like 10, 12 years ago now, right? And I was like, yeah, this guy is pretty good. And after that point, I got into wrestling for a little bit. Like, I knew, like, the big guys. Like, I watched some of the big moments, right? And I'd argue that if I hadn't seen Hulk Hogan in Rocky 3, Thunderlips, right? If I hadn't seen Thunderlips in that movie, would I be a wrestling fan? I have no idea. It's hard to say. I mean, it's like one of those, like, what ifs, right? And it's funny, I remember, like, a couple days ago, I was going to make a video about Hulk Hogan because Jimmy Hart had said that he literally couldn't speak, and then I think that's when I started to get worried. I was like, are we going to lose to him, right? And then, a couple days after Aussie, he passes away. Now, they're saying right now he died, he had a cardiac arrest, right? And I'm just going to, like, based off the way the wrestling industry was back in the day, like, we can assume he had some, definitely, like, you definitely have some health troubles, and, like, that's one of the things about wrestling that, a lot of people don't talk about, is that, like, it has, like, it can really screw up some people's bodies, and I think, in the end of the day, it really played part in, Hulk Hogan's death, the cardiac aspect of it, And then thinking about it now, there are people that are way older than me that were influenced by Hulk Hogan, that watch wrestling because of Hulk Hogan. And it's funny, like, my dad, right, he probably watched wrestling because of Hulk Hogan. It's funny, like, he was the one that told me that he passed away, right? I don't know, when I saw it, I'm like, oh man, no, this can't be true. And yep, it was. And there are people even that I know, someone I know that is dead, that had a Hulk Hogan action figure. He watched wrestling back in the day. And it's like, even people that like even my dad or whatever, it's like, this is somebody that has been relevant for generations, right? There are people that, and it's going to be just like Ozzy, I think. Like, this is going to be somebody that people will talk about forever. People are going to remember forever. And it's just like that. It's like 2 days now. It's like we get two people in their own respective industries that were so big in them that it's just such a seismic loss in both of them. And then I'd argue it's like, today's not about like all the criticisms and all of the controversial stuff he did, but it's like all these people like Seth Rollins and CM Punk and Mark Henry, like all these people that criticize, all these wrestlers that criticize Hulk Hogan. It's like, you at some point liked Hulk Hogan. You probably wouldn't have liked this industry if you hadn't seen Hulk Hogan when you were a kid. At some point, he's entertained everyone. And, like I was saying back there, it's like there are wrestlers that have better stats than him, more moves than him, right? But he's, at the end of the day, it's just, he's almost better than everybody. I mean, like, without a doubt, I mean, yeah, like, there are wrestlers that are better, but at the end of the day, when you really think about it, Hulk Hogan really is the best wrestler ever. I mean, like, just all the different runs and all the, like, even if he just had kept his character the same, eat your vitamins, say your prayers, right? If he kept that even, he still might be just the best of all time. But no, he was Mr. America. He also was Hollywood Hogan. It's like, there's so much to this guy that was just truly entertaining. Definitely, without a doubt, one of the most entertaining people of all time. And the other thing is, like, think about how many people, or how many kids back in the day, said their prayers and ate their vitamins and still do to this day because of him. There's so many people that do that stuff. I would argue that half the people in the gym that you see today probably wouldn't even be in there if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan. Just crazy, Like, the transition that entertainment can do to, like, help you make healthier choices and help you live a better life. It's unbelievable. And Hulk Hogan is responsible for all of that. And that's what this day is about. Remembering somebody that was truly a legend, will never be forgotten, and somebody that was truly entertaining, and someone that was truly an inspiration for millions around the world. Someone who helped create an entire industry, and someone who never backed down, who said what he always believed in, no matter how controversial it was, or owned up to his mistakes, no matter how bad they were. This is what a real man is. And, I wish more people I wish there was more people like him around today, We definitely need it in, these times, And anyways, that's going to do it for this video, One final thing we'll say here. Hulk Hogan, we know he was a believer in the Bible. We know he was a believer in Christ. So hopefully he is up there in heaven with Macho Man hitting some leg drops from the clouds, right? And final message here. With all that being said, Hulk Hogan, thank you for all of the years of entertainment, the real American beer that is sitting in my room right now with your signature on it that I will never get rid of because I'm just going to remember you forever, so there's that. And thank you for getting millions of people around the world jacked, tan, and juicy AF, right? So of course, right? And just all the contributions to wrestling and all kinds of other stuff, right? That he was involved in. All of the TV shows, the reality TV show too. All of it. Thank you for everything. and hope you rest in peace, Hulk Hogan, today.